All right. Hi everyone. So my name's Colin Hill, and I'm one of the teaching advisors at Johns Hopkins. So I'm happy to be giving this talk today with Dr. Brady Page. So could you also unmute Dr. Page as well?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So we're really happy to be giving you guys this talk. Dr. Page and I are going to tag team and talk about, the model that we have in Hopkins. And just happy to share that with you guys. So Dr. Page.
Hey, thanks everyone for having us today. And I think it's lovely that we can do this together. Colin and I have been working together for the last few years, and I'm so proud of him. And I want to just share with you how we can create an inclusive and accessible residency training program. Can you move to the next slide? Next slide.
Okay, got it.
Can someone say move the next slide?
Okay.
Who's in charge of this slide deck? Anyway, I'll keep talking if you can't move the slide. Anyway, I think our next slide says something about us as a program.
Brandy, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
So we can. Colin, you can advance the slide.
Colin, can you advance it?
No, I'm not able to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, you know what the next slide says? It says, in 2017, we were so proud to match Colin Hill in our program. And he is the first of one of maybe the only ASL speaking residents to match in the US in Red Ankh. And I and Anna Keys and our program were so excited because this represented an opportunity to be, one of the first programs to have someone so special in our program to enlighten us. And what we wanted to do is to try to create an inclusive environment. And it gave us a chance to learn about deaf culture and how to effectively work with deaf and hard of hearing colleagues. And so one of the first things we did was say, hey, Dr. Hill, we're so excited you matched with us. Let's collaborate. So next slide, Colin's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
So I just want to give you all some perspective. So, I grew up in a deaf family. My great parents, my sister were all deaf. And actually the first language that I grew up with at home was ASL. Obviously today I'm usually spoken English in the conference, but that wasn't my primary language at home. Med school at Residency was really, honestly the first time where I had to be like a hearing environment with people who knew very little about deaf culture or ASL. Because, when I went to school growing up, it was all like I went to a deaf university. So this was all a very new experience, not just for me, but also for everyone at Hopkins. So we had to come up with something to, make it inclusive and work for all of us together. But before we go on, I want to share this video just to show what it's like, to like grow up in a deaf environment where everyone, uses ASL. So this will play the volume. And you can see the kids, it's just talking ASL, and there's some captions. It's just captioning what they're saying right now. So this is kind of, this is how I grew up at home at dinner table, at school. So Hopkins and med school was a very, new experience. So I'm going to turn it over to Brady to talk about, what we did behind these games and the model that we developed and how we can translate that to make it inclusive, not just for deaf people, but for everyone. So could you go on to the next slide?
Okay, so it's important for us to create a diverse workforce because as we've seen in the last few years, there's an awesome and great emphasis on a universal call to create more diverse physician workforce. There's been changes in ACGME, changes in the AMA, changes in a lot of medical schools and residency. And then we have the CHETI is a council status on Astro. And so this is a big topic. And one of the things we haven't really focused on is diversity in other ways that maybe we don't classically think of. Okay, I need help getting the next slide. All right. There's limited attention to differences other than race or ethnicity. And there's been no real published strategies on how to create an inclusive training program for deaf trainees who utilize ASL. And there can be a lot of heterogeneity in this population. As Dr. Hill can tell you, there's a wide variety of what does it mean to use ASL, or how we speak in ASL or other ways of speaking to one another. Next slide. And we need some frameworks. Keep going. So Dr. Hill, you want to tell us about this?
Oh, sure. So we have like 5 principles that we use to like create a model that work for us, and we think it translates for others. So the first principle that I think is very important is, whenever you're trying to do something, just to make sure that you collaborate directly with the person. Because, even though I use ASL and I'm deaf, even though the resident words also apply to radiation oncology, it's also there. Doesn't mean they may have the same preferences that I would. So I would just say that collaboration directly and asking the person what the preferences are, understanding what the needs are is probably the most important step. Because if you're trying to do whatever changes you're trying to make, if it doesn't, suit what the person needs, it's not going to work. So I think this principle is probably the very most important principle. So going to go on to the next slide, please. So I'll turn this over to Brady.
Yeah, so when we first started this, I remember being very excited because I got to interact with the GME office at Hopkins, and the hospital president and CEO is really excited. And they actually were very excited about this too. So actually the second one is to get key stakeholders from the institution to get involved with your cause and engage them early on in the process and garner support. And when you think about it that way, there's a ripple effect of other important changes that can be offered, not just for the person in your program, but if you heard Dr. Hill talking about all this, you might have heard in your head saying, wow, this could also apply to patients and learn something from it. The third one is to take advantage of all the resources you have. We had ADA officers, and we had a consultant come in and show us how we should maybe rearrange some minor changes of furniture. The other really important thing we advocated for is that there's actually a lot of interpreters out there, but quality is not always even, and it's really important that you got to be open to resources outside of your university setting. And you may think about decentralized funding, and invisible barriers should be addressed with some appropriate accommodations. You should always get the trainees' input as an equal collaborator, and involve the faculty and staff in these decisions and discussions. Next one. And Dr. Hill, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so I think this is something that's probably not appreciated very much, is that we design these like workspaces, buildings, is often designed in a way that is very healing, if I can use that term. So when you think about like the vestibule, which we have in Hopkins, could go on to the next slide actually. So the way we have it in Hopkins is we have cubicles, and we have computers that face the wall. So when people are talking, they can talk over the cubicle. For me, that is really work, because ASL is a visual language. And so there's something called dead space, which is an emerging concept where these are designed in a way that optimizes physical space slightly, and these are more open. So for me, I prefer to have no cubicles and be able to see what's going on around me, to see people that were talking around me, because that's how I operate. So these are examples of minor changes that can make a big impact in terms of just rearranging these with physical barriers. So just want to give you a practical example of how we use one of the principles. Could you go on to the next slide, please? So I just want to conclude here and just summarize what Brady and I talked about today. And I think what we were able to achieve in Hopkins worked really well. And I think those same principles can really translate well across other programs and people with different needs or preferences. And I think those principles are very easy to apply, and they're very intuitive, which is what we were thinking about when we designed this model. So we're very happy to share this with you guys today. So thank you very much for your time. So I have one more slide.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you.